everyone, today I'm going to take you through making my mom's Super Bowl chili recipe. I grew up eating this recipe and have always loved it and always make it for my family as well. I did do a few tweaks to my mom's recipe. Her recipe actually calls for ground beef and ground pork, and I have found over the years that using stew meat just seems to work better for us. We like it that way much better. We just like the chunkier, more the way the stew meat falls apart, it gets so incredibly tender. You can use ground beef and ground pork, or of course, any type of meat you like. We just happen to prefer the stew meat, and in this video, that is in fact what I am making it with. So as you can see here, I am just browning the stew meat in a little bit of avocado oil in a heavy cast iron casserole type dish. It has a lid on it. And you just have to make sure you get it nice and caramelized. You want to see all those brown bits on the bottom. And then you're going to remove it. Do it in batches so you don't overcrowd the pan, because otherwise the meat will just steam and kind of boil. And you don't want that. You want it to get kind of crispy and caramelized on the outside and get all those little brown bits, because that's where all the flavor is. So anyway, once you do that, you're going to remove the meat. You're going to do it in batches, as I said. Remove the meat to a different dish so you can add your other ingredients. Once you've removed your meat from the pan and you have those wonderful brown bits on the bottom, you're going to add your peppers and your onions cut into chunks. I happen to use green peppers. I actually do use red peppers as well later on in the video, but I like the green pepper because it's a bit heartier when you cook it. It seems to stand up better to cooking for a long time. The red pepper I add more toward the end of the cooking process because they just seem to cook faster for some reason. Anyway, make sure you stir it really, really well and get all of those beautiful brown bits to cover over the onions and the peppers. And once you do that, you're going to add in your tomatoes. I happen to use the diced tomatoes from Costco. You can use any diced tomatoes you want. It calls for 2 cans of diced tomatoes. And that also depends on how much meat you're going to use. I mean, the standard recipe, obviously everything is in proportion, but you want to adjust that depending upon whether you bring up or down your meat amount. Right now, for this particular time, I'm using 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Just make sure you stir it really well in with the peppers and onions, and you're kind of just going to let all of the ingredients cook down. Next, we're going to be adding our other ingredients. I added 1 can of kidney beans that I drained and rinsed, 1 can of pinto beans that I drained and rinsed, and 1 can of black beans that I also drained and rinsed. Now, you can really use any kind of beans that you want. You can mix them. You can use all of one type of bean. It is completely up to you. I think my mom's recipe calls just for kidney beans. But again, over the years, I've found that I think it's more nutritionally balanced if it has different types of beans in it. And I also like the texture and the consistency and the flavor of all different kinds of beans. And in terms of amounts, you can also just, really just use your discretion in terms of your own taste and what you like. You can add more, you can add less. You could have easily doubled the amount that I put in or done half of it. It's all completely up to you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the meat that you removed from the pan. You're going to add it back to the pan along with any juices that have collected at the bottom of the bowl, because juices equals flavor. So you're going to put all of that back into the pot and just carefully stir it all together. You really don't want to smush the beans. And I've found that sometimes you can, so you have to just kind of be a little bit careful as you're mixing and stirring. You just want to kind of get everything up from the bottom, bring it to the top, and kind of get it equally distributed all over the pot. Once you've done that and everything is in there all nice and happy, you're going to start adding in your other ingredients. So the garlic, I use the chopped or the minced garlic that you can buy that's already prepared. I find that especially for this recipe, because you are using so much, it's just so much easier rather than chopping all that garlic yourself. But hey, if you're up to it, You can chop away. And again, you're going to put in as much garlic as you think that you would like for your tastes. Next, you're going to add chili powder. The recipe actually calls for 2 tablespoons of chili powder, but again, that's just really a base. You want to put as much or as little chili powder as you like. And in addition to that, what I find with this recipe especially, you will be adding a lot more as it cooks. At least I do. But then again, we like a lot of flavor. So I don't know, maybe you won't. But I add ancho chili powder as well, which the recipe does not call for. I just happen to really like the flavor that it gives it. It does not give it any heat. It just kind of gives it just a body that I can't really explain, and I like the flavor of it. In addition to that, I also add smoked paprika. I love smoked paprika. I add it to a lot of things. And I am just eyeballing it. There's no measurement. It's just something that I added. Coriander also I added, and it is not in the original recipe. I just find that it does give it a brightness that I really do like. And again, I just put in as much as I think, and then throughout the cooking process, I will adjust and add more of everything if I feel it needs it. The recipe itself does call for cumin, although the amount that it calls for, I do put in a lot more than that. Um, and I can't say it enough that you will adjust all of these spices to your own liking. You just want to make sure that you incorporate them throughout to the degree that you feel that they fit. You're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's what the recipe calls for, and I would not start with any more than that. I don't think it needs less, but it definitely does not need more. Sometimes you'll add more toward the end, but the sugar is definitely something that you want to stick with only 2 tablespoons with originally. I also add red pepper flakes, which the recipe does not call for, but that's because we like it a little bit spicy. You do not have to add them at all, or you can add Tabasco, you can add Frank's Red Hot, you could add nothing, whatever you like. Next, you're going to be adding red wine vinegar. This might sound like a strange ingredient, but it is vital to this recipe. It just gives it that punch that just it awakens everything, and it's a must. Again, you might wind up adding a little bit more as it cooks, but I would definitely start with the 3 tablespoons that it does call for. And I really do understand that sometimes people are like, red wine vinegar to chili? But it really, really makes it. In fact, it's one of the things that I find, I don't think there's ever been a time that I've made it that I didn't add more at the very end. And there's just something that brings it all together at the very end by adding a little bit more of the red wine vinegar. And you'll be tasting throughout the entire time that it cooks. But just make sure you stir everything gently. You don't want to break up the beans, as I said. Gently stir it and kind of just get it in there. And you want to put a lid on it. You're going to put it on low, and it is just going to simmer now. And it's glory and fill up your house with this amazing smell for at least the next hour. And I know that that might sound like a lot, but for this, remember it's not ground beef. So you need that stew meat for all the muscle fibers to break down and for it to become unctuous and tender and fall apart. And it is so delicious. So for myself, I add red pepper about, I would say, maybe 20 minutes to 15 minutes before the chili is going to be done. I actually would have added more red pepper than I did in this video, but that's all I had. And I also add corn. Now, this might also sound like an odd ingredient, but I love the pop of flavor that the corn gives to the chili. It's just these little bursts of freshness you get in your mouth when you add the corn, when you eat it. And you don't want the corn to be in there very long because you don't want it to cook down and get mushy and soggy and lose all its vibrancy. That's the whole point. So you want to make sure you add the corn if you're going to way toward the end. I'd say the last maybe no more than 15 minutes before it's done cooking. So once again, you're going to stir it all together. together and make sure that all those flavors marry in there and everybody's in the pool having fun. And once you're done doing that, you're going to find how much salt, and this is a hard part because everybody is different and everybody's on different types of, health diets and things that some people's body handles salt better than others. But as you know from cooking, salt is imperative. So you do have to add salt. The question is just how much. The recipe does have, its amount of salt, but again, this is really going to be something you're going to have to be the judge of. And I don't usually add the salt until like around this time when I've added the corn and the red bell pepper, because you want to see how much salt it already has from all its other ingredients. So make sure you taste it before adding the salt, and then of course again after adding the salt. Then you're going to put the lid back on and let it go again. You will know when your chili is done when you taste a piece of the beef and it just falls apart in your mouth. It is so wonderfully comforting and delicious and satisfying. And even though it is a winter dish, I do make it year round. We actually serve ours over rice. You can serve it over anything you would like or over nothing at all. In fact, right here, my children put cheese on theirs. You can even stir the cheese into the chili as it's cooking toward the very end if you want. But of course, serve it with your normal guacamole, sour cream, scallions, all those wonderful things. I hope everybody enjoys and gives this a try. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And please come back for more. Let me know how you liked it. Everybody have a great day.